Hello, folks. My name is Raymond Nugent, aka Chronic Pain Eating Demon. Folks, we're back again with another video, from Frank James, aka Frankie J88. So I'm back again with another video from him, folks. So listen on up. But before I play the video, this man has some smarts in him. I don't agree with what he did because what he did was very selfish and stupid. But only if he had used his smarts in a different way and get some help psychologically, maybe he would be able to help others as far as his knowledge is concerned. The good part of it.
All right, so I'm back in. I'm back in for another video. I'm going to title this video, The Devil in Us. The Devil in Us. Now, what you just watched, if you didn't know, is a scene from the movie The Exorcist that came out in the 70s. And if you haven't seen it, I would suggest you do see it because it's a very excellent movie. And it was one that was very controversial, and it was one that was very well received, when it first came out.
I couldn't show that part of it, folks, because of copyright infringements with YouTube. But with this Frank James thing, fair use.
And it has some very powerful imagery in it. Very powerful imagery that almost makes you, if you didn't know any better, believe in the devil and such things. Even though I'm gonna promote that in this video, that yeah, the devil does exist, but not in the spirit form. The devil or devils exist in human form. And I want to use that clip to show you what we as so-called black people would have to do in order to exorcise the devil that's inside of each and every one of us, because we do have a devil in us. If you can trace your ancestry back to slavery times, if you are a DOEA, a descendant of an enslaved African, I can almost guarantee you have a devil in you. And of course, the devil I'm talking about is a white devil. And as you saw with Demi, in this case, he requested that devil, the devil come inside of him. He wanted the devil to take him over and possess him in order to destroy the devil. And that's what he did. The devil did go inside Demi.
So what really happened to you then, Frank? That means the devil got to you and went inside of you for you to commit that serious nonsense that you committed on the subway station in Brooklyn. What went into you? If the devil went into them, you should know better, so you should have done better.
Demi, that's the name of the priest in that scene you saw. His name was Demi. And you can see him taking Demi over and starting to control Demi. But Demi fought back. And for a brief second, he was in control over the devil. And what did he do? He committed suicide. He jumped out the window. Thus eliminated the devil out of that little girl, out of himself, and out of that household. And I would suggest to you we would have to do something similar to exercise the white devil that's in each and every one of us. Now I'm going to show you a clip that is pretty much representative of, it's kind of a theme in all of the episodes of Lewis Henry Gates' Finding the Roots. And I'm using Lewis Henry Gates because in Lewis Henry Gates is something fascinating is happening in this series that everybody needs to be aware of, every black person needs to be aware of, and watch and go see the reaction of the descendants of these enslaved Africans, how they react to the various conditions under which their enslaved ancestors were forced to live and endure and live through. And I think it's very key and very significant that we examine and study these clips and the reaction of these people, these black people, to when they discover the conditions under which their enslaved ancestors were kept and had to exist under. There's one clip that I left out. I was going to play a clip, but I didn't think it was really necessary. But it's one that you can watch for yourself because it's connected to this. I think it's episode 9. I believe I gotta check it out. But you'll see the person named Joe. His name is Joe something. You'll hear his name. But there was another part of this episode where he was doing the background of this white actor named Ty Burrell, who was white. But come to find out that his fifth grandmother was black and from somewhere in, I believe, South Carolina. And what we find out in the story is that the way that she came into the world was that her mother was, of course, raped by her white slave master. And it was, of course, a horrific story. Matter of fact, they had it written down. It was written somewhere where they were talking about how they named the girl, 13-year-old little girl, and they said this guy, I think his name was Henry Mask, must have been very fond of this girl.
To me, folks, this is fair use, but all this, to me, is all alleged. All these are the opinion of Frank James and none of the opinion of mine. So in my opinion, these are all alleged until it gets to where you speak the truth, if he does.
Sally, whatever her name was, because he couldn't keep his hands off of her, to the point where he raped her and impregnated this child. And this child was forced at the age of 13 to have a baby that was born through the act of rape by this white man. And now we see here, in how many years later, 100 years later or so, that here his great-grandson, Ty Burrell, has to read this. And of course, he was horrified to hear what happened to his great-grandmother. And he says something to the effect that he wished that he wants to separate himself from his great-grandfather, the rapist, and just wants to embrace the good, the female victim and her baby, his great-grandmother. But of course, that can't happen. That rapist's blood is in Ty Burrell. That rapist's blood is in all of us. It's affecting us to this day. It's affecting our psychology, our physiology, our behavior right to this day. And what I want you to see in this story, this next clip I'm going to show you, is how this guy, I believe, actually, I've been doing a little drinking for the holidays, but you'll see the guy's name. And again, this is a common theme in a majority, if not all, of Louis Henry Gates' episodes of Finding Roots, where the reaction is pretty much the same when it's discovered that one of the black people in the show has a white rapist ancestor in their family line. Now, this particular story, it's unusual in the fact that his ancestor, his great-grandfather, was around like in the 1910s, 1920s, whatever the case may be. So he wasn't around during slavery time. He was around during the time, after slavery, but he was still in the South. And even though he had a relationship with his mulatto son, who looked almost just like, you'll see this, he's damn near light bright, damn near white. The son, this guy, Joe's grandfather, he wasn't allowed to marry. He did not marry this guy's mother, who was black. He couldn't marry because it was illegal. Even though he took this kid, his son, his biological son, and gave him his name and all the rest of that shit, and it's in the census record that he's white and the son's mulatto, that was something that obviously was acceptable, but wouldn't have been acceptable for him to marry this the woman that he had this child with. And then think about it, he had 6 children with this black woman, but the only one that was living with him is one of them, which was this guy Joe's grandfather. It's kind of a complicated story, but again, it's the same thing. When you have a white man that has all the power and authority, taking advantage of a black woman, and coercing her into having sex with him and procreating with him. And then, again, when we look at slavery and how horrible it was, how terrible it was, right? And we look at the multitude of times in the South where you have white men after slavery, having sex with, having babies with black women. There's a lot of questions that could be asked in that. A lot of questions that could be asked. And I was asked that one time before with the story of Strom Thurmond, who was a U.S. Senator. He was an old motherfucker. He died in the 90s sometime. He was about 100 years old then. Come to find out that he had a black daughter that nobody knew about until after he was dead. She was born in 1925, right? In the South somewhere, South Carolina, so where he was a senator from. And the story goes that her mother was a 16-year-old housekeeper in his house, who he, of course, raped, you can say, or forced to have sex with him. And she got pregnant and had this baby with him, right? So again, there's a lot to be talked about. I'm not going to, I believe the women in the story, the black women that were involved in that, are complete victims in the whole story, in the sense that they had no control over their, bodies. They understood, obviously, that they could be forced to or coerced into having sex with a white man anytime, any way, anyhow, whatever the case may be. And it was something that was acceptable. My father told me the story of Lena Horne, right? Lena Horne's from Georgia, not too far. I believe she's from Macon, Georgia, which is the town my father was born in. And my father said that she was born in some place called the Alley. They had a place called the Alley in Macon, Georgia. And the Alley was a place where white men would go, and they had like a black family. They had their black families, their mulatto children, and the black women that had those children lived in the Alley. And Lena Horne was one of those mulatto children born to a white man and a black woman. And so he told us, I don't think anybody knows about that but him. It's probably a story that people close to that would know about. But that's how it was.
Hey, folks, if you like what's going on right now, with all the information Frank has given you, whether you agree or not, because sometimes you can pick sense out of nonsense and work with it and do better with it. But don't forget to hit the Cash App, folks. $ Raymond Nugent. Subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Don't forget to hit the Cash App. Donations is appreciated. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you for listening to the video that I bring forth to you. And also I appreciate you for supporting my channel. I just want to thank you in advance. Let's go back to Frank.
Was in the South, now we can get into I can't get into the thinking behind, the black people who endured that and where their minds were while they were going through that. All I can say is that it's something that we have to deal with. It's part of the reality of our existence that we have to do something about. If we are to have any chance of having a future past the end of the United States as we know it. Because the reason that we can embrace, the reason we can accept these sick, violent, conditions under which we were issued, came into this world, is because the conditions that we live under now are favorable. You're comfortable. Again, you have a job, you have money, you have food to eat. You give somebody a piece of paper, money, plastic credit card, and your needs are met. You get food, shelter, clothing, all that is being given to you under these certain conditions. But again, that is going to change. You see, and we're not seeing that piece of it. We've been on this upward trajectory with this white man, and everything, again, since we left out of slavery, has been improving. Technology, farming practices, science, all kinds of, everything has been going up and up and up in terms of progressing. There's progress. And we've been along for that ride. But again, the problem is the ride comes to a fucking end. This trip comes to an end. And if we don't have our shit together for real, then we're going out of here. We're going out of here. And so what I want to suggest in this video is that we should not embrace, we should not accept the white devil blood that we have in us because of the way that it was forced upon us. We should try to find a way, just like Demi did in that scene from Exodus, to reject that devil that's in us, even to the point of committing suicide, so to speak. And yeah, we'd have to commit a form of suicide. We'd have to kill ourselves in terms of we'd have to kill who we are right now. We'd have to.
Folks, I do not agree with what this man is saying at the moment. This is Frank James' ideas. Some of it rhetoric. And what he's saying right now kind of amazed me, the person he is, the knowledge he seeks, and the way he went out to do crazy things, like what he did. But as you can see, this man left behind just a track record of everything about what he stands for and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe somebody should have caught it sooner, but sometimes you can't see what's really going on in a person's mind and their head if they don't express themselves to a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, try to seek some help. I mean, trust me, that would help and save his life, other people's lives, instead of, going out and do stupid things that get you locked up in jail where, maybe that's where you want to go. I don't know. But hey, I'm glad they caught you.
We have to submerge, again, do a factory reset on our whole humanity and rehabilitate our humanity and cleanse it out. And I have to keep talking about that. And get rid of this notion, as you're going to hear in this clip, that there's a theme, we're all human beings, bunch of bullshit. And how color doesn't really matter. That's bullshit also. Yes, color does matter. There's a reason why you have white people and black people on the fucking planet. There's a reason you have so-called yellow people and brown and red people on the planet. There's a reason for that. There's a reason in nature. That's nothing to do with what goes on in our fucking heads. Nature has determined that we should separate out, and we have done that. The only reason we're together, blacks and whites, is by force. It's not by choice. And we were forced to adopt a European point of view of life. This is why Joe can say, this guy Joe, when we think about it, we have more in common than we have. Well, of course you have more in common because, again, African Americans, the descendants of enslaved Africans, our racial orientation is European in nature. We have to deal with what our racial orientation is, and our racial orientation is not African in nature; it's European in nature. So of course we identify with these people that were the rapists of our great-great-great-grandmothers. Of course we identify with them. Of course their story sounds similar to ours. Of course, the situations they found themselves in seem similar. Of course they do. Because we're one and the same. And we shouldn't be. We should not be. Africans and Europeans should not be in the fucking same hemisphere together. Leave alone living together. It is unnatural, it is sick, and it's fucking wrong. But because we're still a sick and damaged people, we can't see that. We've embraced it. We've normalized mental fucking illness and mental sickness. That's the fuck this is. What else can you call it? And we're gonna find that out over time. And I'm gonna play the clip. Let me play this clip, and I want you to listen how many times I told you that.
Frank, you are a perfect candidate. You are a perfect person. You are actually what a person looks like when they're going through mental health. So you're talking about mental health, but you're also going through it tremendously. Instead of seeking help, you went out and did selfish things. Crazy things, stupid things. Thank God no one lost their lives. Thank God.
Lewis Henry Gates, the ha 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 bullshit. He does it in this clip too. You know, everything is ha ha ha. No, it's not ha ha ha. It's a fucking tragedy. It's a human tragedy. It's a crime against humanity and nature. So there's nothing ha 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 about it. It's not ha 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 because there's nothing fucking over here. And we're not, as black people, we're not going to decide how this motherfucker ends. Somebody else is. Just watch the COVID-19 situation. The numbers of deaths are continuing to rise. Slowly but surely. They're saying it's going to be over 800,000 motherfuckers dead, possibly by the end of this year, with the rise of these cases. Population reduction. The culling of the human fucking herd is taking place in real time in front of your face. That's what's happening here. And if we're just going to act like and think like fucking dumb farm animals, and the only thing we're going to focus on is each other, then we should be back in a fucking cotton field. We should still be picking fucking cotton. You got to open our minds and expand our thinking. Got to do it. Have to. For survival's sake, we have to do it. For survival's sake. And so let me play this clip, and I want you to listen very carefully to the reactions of this guy Joe to finding out that one of his ancestors, well, his grandfather was half white, but he looks, that motherfucker look, I mean, he can more than just pass white. You know, if you saw him, you thinking that's a white man. I don't know how the fuck he got to be. He popped out looking just like his daddy, his white daddy. And that's why probably his white daddy embraced him, because they probably looked exactly the fucking same. A straight stone cracker, that's what the fuck he looks like. And that's what we're gonna see. So, watch this clip. I may or may not interject. I may or may not interrupt it. I haven't decided yet. I'll do it while it's playing. But watch this clip, and I'll be back and we'll talk about it a little more. I'll be right back.
We had already used DNA analysis to introduce Joe Madison to his biological grandfather, Andrew Haygood, a man who appeared to be white, or nearly white. Now we were about to uncover the story behind Andrew's light complexion. In the 1910 census for Macon County, Alabama, we found Andrew living with his father, a man named Lemuel D. Haygood. He's Joe's biological great-grandfather, and the census revealed that he was not an African American.
Lemuel D. Haygood, head of household, white, 75, single, farmer, Andrew's son, mulatto. That tells me a whole lot right there.
Wow.
Now you know.
Your great-grandfather's a white man.
Yeah.
So you have direct white ancestors on both sides of your
Right.
biological family tree.
Well, we all know that part.
Yeah, but you can name yours.
I can name mine, yeah.
Most of us are back in the recess of slavery.
Yeah.
Yours are like popping up.
See the ha ha ha. I had to interject in here real quick because you're going to see that throughout this clip and other clips of Lewis Henry Gates. Again, laughing out loud at a tragic situation. You know, talking about how most of us have to, you know, trace our white ancestry back into, we can't trace our white ancestry back into slavery, you know, but yours pops right up like, ha 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 ha. There's nothing ha 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 about this situation. There's nothing ha 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 about rape. There's nothing ha 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 about children being born in a situation where they're nothing but, what's left after an illicit fucking act by a degenerate, sick, devilish white man who probably winds up selling them after they're born into slavery, which is even doubly sick. And no, we shouldn't be laughing about it. We should be mourning this condition, this situation, and again, trying to exercise it out of our life and out of who we are as human beings, trying to cleanse ourselves of this sickness as much as that's possible. Now, the blood is there, the DNA is there. There's nothing we can do about it. But I believe there's a lot we can do about how it affects our life, how we use that sick DNA, and how we position it, and how we work against it and make it work for us and not against us. In a case like somebody like a Malcolm X, who was but not almost white, but he's real light skinned. And you see, obviously, he had some European ancestry in him. But he was totally about being pro-black. And even though that wasn't well defined under the nation, because he was under the strict control of, the pedophile Elijah Muhammad, I don't say it like that, but he couldn't really break out like he wanted to. But he's a perfect example of how we need to take that devil that's in us, and if we can't kill it, if we can't, get rid of it, at least use it to our benefit. At least, handcuff it and put it in. How you do that shit when you put somebody's hand behind their back, and you put them and it's like you're gonna break their arm. You twist their arm backward, and you put your arm around their neck, and you take control of them like that. That's what we have to do with that white devil that's inside of each and every one of us, and not just ha ha ha. Well, ha, and we all have everything. Blacks and black and whites have so much. Of course, you have so much in common, because you're a black European. It could be you. What else could it possibly be? After generation of living around Europeans and in their culture, of course you're gonna become Europeanized. You're gonna identify with them. And again, our racial orientation is European in nature. Can't get around that fact. So I didn't want to interject. I just wanted to interject that how he laughs, about these situations when they're not fucking funny. I don't care what you say. No, we can't just laugh it off. We have to do something about it. Okay, let's continue with the video.
If Andrew's father was white, his mother must have been black, which meant that the couple had taken a significant risk, because under Alabama law at that time, interracial relationships were illegal and subject to prison terms. So who was Andrew's mother? We found a clue by comparing census records from 1900 and 1910. In 1910, Andrew was living with his white father, Lemuel Haygood. 10 years earlier, in the same county, we saw a woman named Emma Tompkins living with a son named Andrew. Emma was black, and she had a very familiar neighbor. Please tell me who's living next door to Emma.
Head of household, white,
64 years old.
64 years old, single.
So that's your great-grandfather living next door.
Yeah.
One time, and then they're together 10 years later.
Yeah. Man, they could pass all the laws they want. It doesn't make any difference. Folks are going to get together.
Folks are going to get together.
Okay.
Seen in combination, the paper trail and the DNA evidence provide overwhelming proof that Emma is Joe's great-grandmother. But we know little about the relationship between Emma and Lemuel, and we can only guess how much of it occurred in secret. We do know, however, that 10 years after the census, Andrew was living with his white father and had taken his surname, which suggests that Lemuel acknowledged his role as a parent and took care of his family. A decision that would soon stand out even more strongly as we dug deeper into Lemuel's past. Records reveal that Lemuel was born in 1835 in South Carolina, which means that he was 26 years old when the Civil War broke out. So, want to guess what he did during the war?
No, please.
Would you please turn the page? This is a muster roll from the Federal National Archives in Washington, D.C. Would you please read the transcript? This is the moment where the Black Eagle, the Black Eagle, ladies and gentlemen, the blackest man in satellite radio, is about to announce what his great-grandfather did during the war.
L.D. Haygood. He was a private, Company D, 14th Regiment, South Carolina Infantry.
And what's that?
Now, wait a minute. Confederate. No, my eyes just skipped over that. Confederate L.D. Haygood. Well, you couldn't help it. He was a white Southerner. So, wait a minute. So, I could join
The Sons of the
Confederacy.
You could indeed.
That would shake them up, wouldn't it?
So, Joe, what do you think you inherited from your ancestors?
When you see the sacrifices people made, you see the relationships that they've had with each other, and it just reinforces the fact that we have more in common than we have differences.
Absolutely.
It really does. It really does. And how insignificant color is.
All right, so there it is, a clip from Lewis Henry Gates, Finding Your Roots. And, yeah, so that's the, you can see a lot of laughter, a lot of laughing going on about the situation of him having white ancestry that did not fully embrace him. He's going back to his great-grandfather, his grandfather and whatnot, who would not have accepted him fully as a part of their family. And I was trying to find this clip from, there was a documentary done on the former president of Ghana. I believe his name was, I know it was Rollins. What the first name was, I can't think of his first name. But his father was white. This was years ago. This may have been back in the 70s or 80s sometime when this was done. But he actually went to visit his father, because he never met him before, in Scotland. Yeah. He went.
Folks, this part of what he's saying is true about what happened with this gentleman. And he's also going to talk about Bob Marley and his father, which what happened with Bob Marley and his father was also true. So that I understand and I agree with, because that part of it was true.
Went to his father's house. Now, he was the president at that time of Ghana. Matter of fact, he was the president of Ghana at that time. Went and knocked on his father's door. And what do you think happened? When his father came to the door and saw him, and he introduced himself as his son. President of Ghana now. What do you think his father did? His white father in Scotland. Did he give him a hug and say, "Oh my God, good to see you, son. It's been so long. I know I haven't seen you since you were born, but I want you to know that I've always loved you and always will love you as my son"? Did he say that? Or, welcome anyway? As the president of Ghana, I just want to welcome you to Scotland. And come on in and have a cup of coffee or something like that. What do you think he did? His father slammed the door in his face. His father, as soon as he announced who he was, his father closed the door in his face. And the president of Ghana turned around and walked away from his father's house. And we hear a similar story in the story of someone like Bob Marley, whose father was also white. And neither him or his family accepted Bob Marley. And I think that's what led to Bob Marley's rebellion and his rebelliousness. Because he actually went to visit his family also, and his white family, and was rejected. They did not accept, they did not embrace him.
That's why, folks, the song that Bob Marley sung, I think it goes, the brick that the builder refused becomes the head cornerstone. I think that was on a Bob Marley song that he sung when he saw what went on when he tried to meet the other side of his family. So yes, he was the brick that the builder refused, but yet still Bob Marley became the head cornerstone for the family. So that's why you see the history behind Bob Marley and the struggle.
You see, and so we see these stories like this guy Joe, his man, whatever his name is, and he's laughing and joking and he's embracing his white ancestry. It would be a similar story with him. If he visited his white ancestors in the South, wherever the fuck they may be, they would reject him the same way. Be no different. See, they would reject us, but we embrace them. And this is our biggest problem. And this is why I say we got it right in the 60s, as hard as people want to push against that. And now you see a push. What are you seeing now? It's incredible because it seems like we're embracing our whiteness more than we are our blackness. If you look at the skin tone of certain people, like even like somebody like a fucking what's his name? I want to say, what's her fucking name? Whoopi Goldberg. And other black actors and actresses, you can see it looks like their skins are getting lighter. And lighter for some reason. And of course the hair, the blonde extensions, and the blonde wigs, and the blonde weaves. And it seems like we're embracing our whiteness more than our blackness.
I don't see where Whoopi Goldberg looked like she's getting whiter, my friend. Whoopi Goldberg always have the same look to me, skin color. Sometimes she should wear her hair white, but still with dreads. But she always look the same. But yes, we do have some people out there in this world that are not proud of their skin color. And they're using this thing they call bleach from China, my friend. They bleach their skin. That's what they used. That don't mean I agree with them, but that's what they use on their skin.
And, it's understandable to a certain degree when you're ignorant and you really don't understand what the consequences of that is. When you can see the benefits of being white, when you can see where it's something more desirable to live a European lifestyle and to be European-like. At this particular moment in time, it's like that. But it will not be like that forever. This is something that a Negro has no sense of. We live so much in the now that we can't see what the potential is for the future. And as you just heard Joe say at the end of that, how insignificant color is, and how we have more in common than we have different and together. And who the fuck is this we? Is he talking about so-called white and black people? Well, there's no such thing really in this country. There's no such thing as no real white and black. That's all theoretical. Because in reality, we're all white. In reality, we are all Europeans. And even though there's no such thing as a black European, because there are no blacks in Europe, black Europeans were created in the United States. Black Europeans were created during slavery time. So of course we have everything in common, because we're all European in nature. Again, our racial orientation is European in nature. And this is the heart of our problem. Okay, but white people's orientation is also European in fucking nature. And that's because they're fucking Europeans. And that's how it should be. Our racial orientation should be of African or some sort of African in nature, but it's not. Because we reject our Africanness. We hate being African, I believe, at the end of the day. We do. Because of what happened in Africa and was caused by Africans. And not just by white people. Africans helped to destroy themselves. That's a big part of why we don't want to embrace it. We started to back in the 60s, and that was the right thing to do. Ultimately, it will be. We can't see that now. Why it was the right thing? Why we should have stayed on that course? Because even though, again, you accept you're white, rapist ancestors' blood, and you can laugh it off and play it off now. That's not to say they're going to do the same thing when the time comes. That's not to say that when the time comes, when things get bad enough, they're not going to treat your black ass just like they treated them fucking Jews in Germany and throughout Europe, and probably worse. And probably worse. Negroes have no sense of this.
This is Frank opinion, folks, not mine. This is Frank James' opinion, not mine.
There's a very significant portion of the white population that despises us because of our blackness. And, you know, based on what I'm seeing out here now in black community, I can't fucking blame them because I'm starting to despise us too. I guess you can call me a hater, a self-hater. Yeah, I'm a fucking, yeah. I guess I'm a self-hater. Because I'm starting to hate being fucking so-called black or being a fucking nigga. Yeah, I am. Because we on a one-way, we got a one-way ticket right back to where the fuck we started from. Because we refuse to deal with our history. And
this man, from what I'm listening to, have a serious psychological issue to the point where he even hate himself. Hate himself. And that's why he went out and commit stupid and selfish acts in the subway station in New York City. He hated himself.
What caused us to be who and what we are, take it seriously, dissect it, bisect it, put it in the microscope, study it like a fucking, you know, scientist in a laboratory, and see how we can truly solve the problem. One way we can do it again is I go back to what you saw in the beginning of this clip of this video. Demi, the priest, asking that devil, that demon to come inside him, to take possession of him. And the demon did come inside him. And what did Demi do immediately? He jumped out the window, committed suicide, killing himself and getting rid of that fucking demon that was inside of him simultaneously. And we have to do something similar. We're not doing that. We're embracing this fucking demon. We're allowing this demon, this devil, to possess us. Because he's inside of us. That devil, that rapist devil is still inside us. He still affects us in our behavior, the way we think. He does. It does. I see their own family. I mean, I've seen it. You know,
you allow the devil to possess you, my friend. You allow the devil to possess you.
Maybe it's just them.
You. Not everybody does
that.
that.
European devil blood.
People have control. A lot of people.
And so the devil in us. Yeah, we do have devils in us from our time as being enslaved that is still impacting us to this day.
Everybody have a choice.
We embrace it now. Why? Because the conditions under which we live allow us to play the shit off and to laugh it off. Because again, you look good, you feel good, you smell good, you got food to eat, you got a warm place to go to the bathroom. Hey man, life is beautiful. For today, for now. But again, I remind you, we're passing through a phase. What is happening, what is here today will not be here to fucking tomorrow. This is what they're telling you with this COVID-19 shit. The very beginning of something. Population reduction has to happen. There's no way under, over, or around that fact. We're in something called population overshot. I tried to describe that to you in terms of talking about the island of Puerto Rico. And explain to you, if we took everybody that claims to be a Puerto Rican and exiled them back to Puerto Rico, and they had to provide for themselves on the island of Puerto Rico without any outside resources, which means they had to grow all their food, all their energy, whatever they use, had to come from that island, they'd be dead within inside a month. They'd be trying to swim off the fucking island. That's how fucked up they would be. That's population overshot. That's population overshot. And that's what we're in. And this is what they're trying to eliminate. And I can't blame them one bit. We can't see that. We don't see shit. We can't see nothing. We don't have to see a motherfucking thing. But we will feel it. You don't have to see it, but you will feel it. And so this is part of what we have to do. Exercise and get rid of the devil that's inside of us. And I believe it's going to be much like Demi did in the movie The Exorcist. We have to commit a sort of suicide. Not a physical suicide, but kind of killing who and what we have developed into over these centuries, inside and outside of slavery. And creating a program of rehabilitation, reorientation, and everything else. A redirection, a repurposing of our whole fucking humanity as a group of people. And be committed to a way of living and thinking that is orthodox. It has to be strict orthodoxy in nature. It has to be. If we can't do it, then we can't do it. Then we can't go back to picking cotton. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with picking some fucking cotton. Slavery is a part of the human experience. Slavery ain't going nowhere. And if we can't start acting and thinking and being like slaves, then we should be back in some sort of fucking slavery. We're saying we can't be set free. We can only be turned loose.
Yes, folks, I'm getting to the end of the video. It's almost finished. But don't forget, the Cash App, $ Raymond Nugent. I appreciate you. And don't forget, folks, subscribe to the machine. Help this machine grow. And let's stay positive. Thank you.
We can't be given freedom. We can only be given more freedoms. And this is who we are. This is where the fuck we are. And where we're happy to be. But we're not going to be able to stay here. We're not going to be allowed to stay here. This thing is moving. It's moving to a place where we're not going to want to be in a minute. And we're not ready to face. I want you to go back and watch videotapes of the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Very, very critical. It's a microcosm. It'll give you a quick snapshot of what it would look like if we had to live together exclusively without any white oversight. How we would act around toward each other. The chaos and the fucking bedlam that would ensue. No, we would not cooperate. We would tear each other the fuck apart. And you started to see the beginnings of that at the Astrodome, and even before the Astrodome, you can see it. But especially in the Astrodome, you can see it. How people started to begin to attack each other and fight over resources. And want to attack each other over resources, limited resources. This is the importance of the rehabilitation process, the reorientation, the repurposing of our fucking humanity as a group of people, the exercising and the killing and the getting rid of, if not getting rid of, at least fucking putting in a headlock and yoking up that white devil and making him work for us and not against us. Again, like Malcolm X did and was in the process of doing, because he embraced totally and completely his blackness, his Africanness. And he even said, yeah, I'm light-skinned, but I'm a black man. I'm an African. Have to be able to say that. And I know you think about Africa and you don't, oh my God, them fucking Africans, oh, them sons of bitches, they hate us. No, they your ass. You are them. You can embrace a white motherfucker who raped one of your ancestors. You can embrace, like, oh, yes, well, he raped well, that's my grandfather. Nothing you can do about that. Oh, but Africa, you just can't fuck with Africa, even though you are fucking African. Just like you have that white European blood and you got more African blood than you do European blood in you. So anyway, I mean, there's a lot more that I can talk about in this video. It's important that we understand that we do not have a future if we can't get our shit together for real. And getting ourselves together for real doesn't mean getting money and material shit and becoming, more materialistic than any other generation before us. It means rejecting materialism. It means rejecting our Europeanized way of thinking, living, and adopting, just like we had to adopt and were forced to adopt, but we had to volunteer to adopt something that's the opposite of what we were forced to adopt. And then something has to be more African in nature. Otherwise, we're saying we're a nigger. And if we're going to be a fucking nigger, then we ought to be picking cotton and chopping sugar cane.